Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Marcus from TCG Discussions coming at you with my first place locals red purple Luffy deck profile. Even though this is a new format, we're still dealing with law. I decided that I was going to take a look at this deck, and in my testing with it, it's actually super nasty. I think that this deck is one that I think that a lot of people enjoy. It's kind of like off meta, but like it really does have the strength to contend with a lot of meta decks. In case you're wondering if this is some kind of like one-off like rando win, I'd say that this is a pretty good sample size of what you should expect, at least. From what I played tonight, it was 3 rounds, so nothing major, but undefeated 3-0 against 2 Ragers and an L. I've had a lot of testing with this deck into Bonnie, a lot of testing into some like other rogue decks, and usually like if I lose, like I just can learn from what I did wrong in the moment. Or maybe I made a misplay or a mistake, like I forgot leader effect or something else, and it would just like matter or make sense to go with a different line, and just like understanding like the cards in my hand, like IFI queen blocker here, like what does that do to my curve? If I law blocker too many times and I get behind my curve, do I get to my big cost cards, like things like that. So definitely some king sword over the deck. But this deck is not only super fun, like I said, it's super nasty. This deck has to have a positive matchup into Reiju. I believe I am undefeated playing Reiju, period. That's both on the sim and in real life. So I just wanted to bring you guys this profile and talk to you like about some of the curve lines. And then, you know, just kind of, you know, do like the normal thing where we kind of like talk about it. So starting off, we got our leader, Monkey D. Luffy, 3 life leader, 6k power. 6k is incredible, especially like against Reiju, because like Porsche, like for example, if they open up like Porsche Ichiji, they cannot swing at you. If they open up something subpar like Porsche Reiju, like they still can't swing at you. And this just gives you some time. Coupled with like our ramp curves, it's really good. Being that 6k is like super awesome. Going down to 2 life turns on Rad Beam, and the ramp effect is super awesome, both in the like late game, obviously, and assisting your curve to get to your big cards, but also like super good at like your take another turn with your 5. And going, when you go to 0, you get that extra power, you get a 7k swing, which is just absolutely massive. He has an ability, if you don't know, that you can ramp a Dawn if you're at 0 or 8 or above. So that's like, the leader is just honestly like super good, and both giving us like tempo. We're trying to get to big bodies, and then consistently see like just like really, really strong cards. So start off, we got 4 Nami. She's our searcher. She searches a whole host of cards, searches 2Ks, searches Rad Beam, searches Gear 5. So like she hits a lot in the deck. She gives turn 1 play. At 3 Dawn, if we go first, we play her, and then we can go 5-6. We want to get our opponent down as fast as possible, and so that when we play Gear 5, they just like crumble. Next, we play 3 red Sanji 2K. This is not really here to like play to the board, but I wanted like a straw hat that was like a 2K that was playable. You can play for Nosuke here, but honestly, I just kept with the theme of Sanji's. I think it's just fine either way. Next, on to, for sure, something that I would play it for, if I was anybody, for Zorjuro. This card was already like really strong against like RP Law. Like but like RP Law being gone, like this card just like gets even better. Its only real weakness is like Lucci, but they really can't do anything to it going into four Dawn. They'd like have to like leader swing and like literally play out. They'd have to like span them and then like leader swing into Lucci and literally just have like one card in trash. It would be like really bad for them. So this card swinger is going to stick, and if it ramps you like one time, that's like massive. So at odd curve, right? Like if you go into 5 Dawn, you ramp, you go to 6. Here, you can like play queen, you can, you know, and still have like a Dawn, and like still swing 7, which is massive. You can play Law. Basically, we're like, you know, get that Dawn return. If they don't have like multiple attackers established already, then like this guy's just going to get protected. And then you can do it again and just ramp even faster. So it's a really, really strong card, and it just matters a lot that you see him. And it's also like a searchable like target for Nami, which is really good. Next, we play 4 Wall Blocker. This card is absolutely bonkers in this deck. It's a card that like I kind of like have to watch because like I like to punish like greedy decks, which is like kind of what this card does. Like on the one hand, they think that you're just gonna beat their face in, and like you play this card down and you just like rip 2 cards. This came up today against Anel. I mean, Anel wasn't gonna win. I'll talk about the matchups at the end because like the board state that I had at the end was just absolutely crazy. But like I said, this deck, this card punishes greedy decks. They like to have a lot of cards in hand. So, you know, take a few cards out of their hand for a Dawn minus. Like, it's really not going to hurt you, especially if you have like Zorojuro ramp. You can also protect the Zorojuro by blocking, yeah, which is just like really, really good. So like, again, let's say that they have a lot of cards, you know, 5, 6, you know, then you can go play Law Blocker, and then swing 5, swing 7, right? Like that is just like really, really powerful. And then if they can't like out the Zorojuro, like they just they're hurt. So they're gonna be really hurt. So because he's just gonna ramp back the Dawn that like Law lost, and then so it goes 5, 6, 7. He ramps again, goes 8, and then leader effect will take you to 9, which is just really strong. And then him being a blocker is just like really good at like securing extra security to get back to your turn for gear 5. Like, it's just really, really good. Next, the card that like is probably like a lot of people unlikely, but like something that's like really good is Bon Clay. Now there's the event card that like it's like the lead performers like card, and then there's this one, and we opt to go with Bon Clay for 2 reasons. This card punishes Reiju super hard for playing EG early. There's really nothing they can do about it unless they like EG and then EG to like bounce the card back to hand. But even if that does happen, he's already served his purpose in getting us on ramp. And he's also what we want to see for like our even curve. So we like have Zorojuro we have Zorojuro here for like the odd curve, and we have him for the even curve in the early game. And the reality is this card on even curve is actually insane. So if you go second, and then on like your second turn you play him, you get a Dawn, you swing 7, so you go to 5. The next turn you're at 7. The reason why that's like super broken is because then if you have 7 cost Kid in your hand, you can just play him immediately. Dawn minus go to 6, next turn go to 8, and then ramp with leader effect go to 9. And then literally your leader's just like 9k. And as long as you have like Newgate or another 7 cost, like you're just going to be completely untouchable for most of the game. And Bon Clay, like I said, he's really punishing right now because like Porsche HG is like so broken. It's like 14 Dawn for freaking 3, like for crying out loud. Like, yeah, it's just insanity. And this card, like if they put EGG on the board to swing at you, this card just sits there and stares at him like, yeah, like now I'm about to be like a 7 or an 8k swing at you on top of whatever the leader is going to be. So if you do the same line that I just talked about with like 7 cost K, you can still swing 7/7 and then they have to basically waste an attack into Bond Clay while like having to expend Dawn to swing you unless like Ichiju's there. So the other thing is like he can just kind of be that ramp and then like sit there if they like play a 4-5 or like a 3-5 like in Porsche, you can still get like value by swinging up 5k leaders. So even if he leaves, like you're not like trying to protect him or anything, you don't really care about that. But yeah, like it's like a super really good card, especially in helping your curve. Next we opted to play 3 Queen blocker. Queen is like really strong in the deck for 2 reasons. He's a 6k and he's filter, so we do run like quite a few like non-counter cards in the deck, and so like sometimes Queen just like fixes our hand or helps us see cards that we need to see. We don't want to see him all the time. Law blocker is actually way better, just because like when you take your opponent's counter out of their hand, it means like your leader's objective, like this deck's game plan objective, gets a lot easier. But Queen's also really good because he's that 5/6, so he can't be bounced by Niji. Him being a 6k is kind of like relevant because your leader's also a 6k, so like you can just defend basically him as if he were your leader, which for a lot of people, like obviously your leader gets like more value, but like they have to like, you can just literally you know, counter a 1 over him over countering like a 2 if he was like law or something. You see what I'm saying? And this way, like their 6k doesn't get like more value. If it was swinging at your 5, like for a 2k, you can just get rid of 1. So all I say, he's like super good, and the Dawn minus doesn't hurt too bad, much like the law, as long as you don't do it too many times before like you get to your leader's ramp effect. Next we play 4 Sanji 2k blocker. This card is like kind of broken in this deck for 2 reasons. Not only is he searchable off Nami, but when you activate like the Gear 5 line, you Dawn minus 10, activate leader effect, and then you activate Gear 5's effect to ramp, so you swing 7, and then you pass, take a turn, go to Dawn up, so you're at 4, and then activate Gear 5 to go to 5. But one of them's going to be rested, right? But with that same line, you can have Gear 5 Luffy and your leader swing 6, and then play this card down for 3, and still have a Dawn up for Rad Beam. So like that like line of defense post activating Gear 5, like if Gear 5 didn't end the game, is like really, really strong. And then again, just him being a searchable 2k is like super good. The only time you're going to get to play him for 3 is basically after you activate Gear 5 though. So yeah, otherwise you're basically going to tap for 6. Next on to literally like probably he's like up there. It's probably like one of the most important cards in the deck. Uses Captain Kid. This card is such a boon for the deck for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you somehow get 2 of these established, it is not only an immense amount of pressure, but as the game gets like later and like you're Dawn, so like I spoke about that 7 curve, you can 8 go to 9. And then after like you go to 8, 9, play another 7 kid, Dawn minus, and then Dawn minus again. You go down to 7, 9, re-ramp again, and then literally the 2 will literally just keep echoing the ramp. And if you have a new gate follow-up, your leader is literally like 9, 10k, and that is just impossible in most early game states. Like, by the time you play this card down, you being a 7k leader or following that up with, like, a new gate or, like, another kid, your opponent may just be getting to, like, their Gecko Moria in black, right, or something else. And so, he just is not only that, but he's an 8k swing. He is ginormous. He not only, like, makes your leader, like, swing 7, 8, and then, like, 8, 8, or, like, 8, 9, if you play like a new gate post playing him, it's just gross. Like it's literally filthy, and you're just going to like have so much pressure and just take so many cards out of your opponent's hand, and if they don't, they literally just lose their life. And then like all you have to do is just like look at their hand and then judge whether 8, 10, 7, 12, 10 is going to kill them, and generally it does. So He's insane. Honestly, one of the best cards in the deck by far. So we play it at 4. Next, moving on to absolutely nobody's surprise whatsoever. We play 4 Edward Newgate. See some lists play this card at 3. I think playing this card at 3 is absolutely wrong. So I was doing preliminary testing with this deck at 2 and 3 of this, and I was just like, I'm playing the deck wrong. I'm like, my leader's just not big enough. And like, being an 8K leader is just insane. When you get to 10 Dawn, you can be an 8K leader with like 1 Dawn up, and that's Rad Beam. What's really disgusting though is when you can be an 8K leader with double Rad Beam. And so like how you do that is like at 10 Dawn with Kid on board already, you play down Newgate, you go up +2, you activate Kid's effect on swing to Dawn minus, and then activate Gear 5, but like your leader's effect to ramp it on active. And so you're a 9K leader with 2 Dawn up for double Rad Beam. The only thing stopping that double Rad Beam is Hody Jones. Like, it's like the only card in the game that you have to worry about. And then his Dawn X2 effect actually can come up quite a lot against Reiju. Like, let's say that you want to go for a kill turn against like Reiju, and they have like a bunch of chopper blockers on the board. Well, this card just swings with 2 Dawn attached to a 12 and then like blows it up. And he is just a complete powerhouse. He makes your leader completely untouchable. As soon as he touches the board, Reiju essentially just passes turn. Unless they have like 2 or 3 EGGs on the board, they really cannot do much of anything to you. So Edward Newgate is like a massive boon. Like, both of these cards in tandem, the reason we play them at 4 is because like we want to see these cards as like our late game. And yeah, it's just completely broken. And I'll talk about like more today about like, yeah, my matchups, but about what happened today with those cards. Next is probably the most underrated card in the game for this deck, and it is 10-cost Shanks. I cannot sing enough praises about this card. First off, the alt artwork is incredible. This is actually my favorite alt art probably in the game. I just think Shanks is such a cool character, and like, I'm so happy in OP09 we're getting a deck that involves red hair. I literally cannot wait to play that deck. Like the red hair pirates just like seem so cool, and I love Shanks as a character and what he's done for Luffy and everything. So I'm like super happy. But the artist who drew this card, I think it's immaculate. But you know, back to like why we play it. This card is probably the real reason this deck can compete with any deck in the meta. So in a Nell, right, like this goes for just basically anything like a Nell, Bonnie, yeah, shoot, even like the Mirror to some degree. You know, what else? Lucci. Oh, gosh. I'm like literally trying to rack my mind. Anything that's like not blue, really. This card just kills everything. It literally can kill everything. If you don't know what it does, it's a 10-12 on play, KOs a card with 10,000 power or less. So Enel, Yamato, Katakuri, Ace, all of them die to this card. Against Enel, when you KO their Ace or their Yamato and you put a 12 cost on the board, that's like backbreaking, right? Like, it's literally like backbreaking. We'll talk about like what he did for me today. This card is one of the clutchest cards in the game. Against Bonnie, everything is 10k or less. The only card that doesn't die to this immediately is Basil Hawkins. So if they like 10 cost Dofi stun lead and you just drop this as a counter, they are in serious trouble if they can't like kill you on the clap for that. Especially if Eustace Kid's on the board because they don't have removal. Zoro, right? Zoro is probably the most dangerous card against this deck by far. Shanks just flat out kills him. And like, he is like the answer. They spend their entire turn for Zoro, and then you just spend your entire turn to kill the Zora, and now you have a 10-12 on the board, and to add on to the pressure. And depending on like what was on the board before then, like if you did like 7, 9, 10 into Shanks, you already have like Kid to buff you to 7, and then like Newgate swing 10, and then Leader swing 7. So it's a 7, 8, 10 with like a 10 for 12 coming to the board. And then like if you follow up all those next turn swings with Gear 5, there's no chance they win the game. They just auto lose. So yeah, just Shanks is just one of the most powerful cards. Honestly, like completely underrated as a card. Next, for the card that just completely seals the game no matter what, we play 4 Gear 5 10-drop Luffy's. Honestly, one of my favorite cards in the game. I've looked for ways for this card to be broken, and I think that this list really does the job. If you don't know what this card does, Dawn -10, your opponent basically skips your turn and then goes back to you. And then like you just take another turn immediately after this turn ends, and then you get to ramp with your leader because you're at 0, and then you get to use his other effect, which is activate main once per turn for Dawn. So you'll tap a Dawn, you get to ramp a Dawn. And this will put you at 4 when you take another turn, and then you'll ramp again, go to 5. And that curve is extremely important to do, because this way, if somehow they don't like lose the game, you can, the following subsequent turn, they go for 5, 7, activate Gear 5 effect again, go to 8, activate this guy's effect again to go to 9, but it'll only be 8 active Dawn, but you can still play like a 7-cost Kid and still have the ability to go to, still have like a Dawn up for Rad Beam. So there's just like play lines like that, like are things that you just kind of have to know. But this card is like a finisher. We do want to see it, but we don't want to see it as much as like we want to say like Kid or like Newgate. Like this is the card that comes in after all those cards are on the board and like they've taxed their opponent's hand out of existence. And Shanks does a very good job of doing that too. I literally won a game off of playing 3 Shanks today, like all 3 of my Shanks. Next, we play 2 Diablo Jambe. This is for Black Yellow Luffy. Now, somebody told me that this doesn't work. Like Gear 5, the way that works is like until the start of your next turn, the leader will gain the buff against like Black Yellow Luffy. But even if that's the case, you know, Diablo Jambe will completely bypass Saba Blocker, and with Gear 5 make him a 15k swing that's unblockable. So like you have serious finishing potential against that. That's literally going to cost them 3 2ks and then something else out of hand, and depending on where they're at, like that can just be too much. The other thing is like this deck, it plays very well into Black Yellow Luffy for 2 reasons. The first is that like without 5-cost Luffy, they really can't get at your leader. Even like their leader like slapping Dawn on it and then like swinging at you, like that doesn't really matter, because as soon as you get to like 7-cost Kid and then Newgate, like you're building a really big board that's really menacing. And then like basically like asking them like, what is your 9k? If I have like a 10, 12, and a 9k leader myself, like what is your 9k? It doesn't mean very much. The other thing is that like because of like Rad Beam, 9 doesn't cut it either. Like Rad Beam can look like literally their 9k swing can just be met with a Rad Beam at base, and like you're fine. So like all that to say, Jambe though can either make your leader bypass and go straight through. So like if they double Sabo and they think that like at 0 they're fine or something, they're just not. And that is like really strong as a play for the deck. And this also just bypasses like Black's blockers from like Lucci or Bonnie's like wall of death that they think that they're just fine to hide behind. They're not. Like Jambe can like literally just make a leader 15 and they just go straight at life, and it can just end the game right there on the spot. 4 Radical Beam, gotta play it. And we all know what this does. And then lastly, for Jet Gatlings, we play this over Bad Mayor's Kit Course because its trigger has the ability to ramp a Dawn as active. So if you're wondering which one do you play, they're both Straw Hat Crew, so it's searchable by Nami, but this one specifically ramps your Dawn. And we play 4 of it because we do play a lot of bricks. Like we have the Gear 5, we have Shanks, we have Newgate, we have Kid, and we also have like John Bay at times. So we want to be able to like have maximized variants of like not only ramp, but as well as like our ability to turn non-counter cards into counter, so we can get to like back to our turn and then hopefully beat them. So like I said, the matchups today were double Reiju and an L. It's actually Reiju and L Reiju in the finals. Just to like talk about like the games real quick. Game 1 against Reiju, my opponent really didn't feel like there was anything that he could do like the entire time. I saw Kid on curve, I saw Newgate on curve, and then I saw another Newgate after that. And then I had Gear 5 in hand, and he like died literally to the lack of counter in hand. It doesn't even matter if they like have a bunch of Dawn, because like once you get to like 2 or 1 life and you get to like Newgate plus Rad Beam, they like literally even like EGG stacked everything. Or like if you have like a block, like a blocker, like Queen blocker is like super good into Reiju because like they cannot lift it with Niji. So like and put it back in your hand. They can't do that with Law Blocker, but again, like you can literally just math out the Dawn that it's going to take them to even swing and count how many swings they have when you're an 8K. And it's just extremely limited unless they put like a lot of big bodies. And the sad news is by the time they start putting big bodies down on the board, unless it's like Porsche HG, like back to back, they really can't do anything. And so he folded. The next game was absolutely crazy. It was an L. And I saw he went first. I had Bon Clay, ramped to 5 like I told you, swing 7. He started off flopping, and then like he swung 8. I took the damage because I didn't want to like give him 2 cards, and then went to 4, ramped to 5, swung 7, made him take a damage, and then he played Gadatsu, and you know, I was just able to swing, take a damage, and then he basically Onami triggered, or Luffy triggered to kill my Bon Clay, and then I played 7-cost Kid. And by that time, I think I had like 1 life left, but I had like a lot of counter in hand. And so I played 7-cost Kid. His response was Raigo, and he was at 1 life. And then stack up Dawn, he swung, I countered out. And then my next turn, I had Newgate. I had got Newgate off my second to last life. And so I played Newgate. And then he Raigo'd again, passed. And then the subsequent turn from, not the subsequent, but the turn after that, I played another 7-cost Kid. And then he categorized it to the bottom of my deck and swung, and I countered out. I just like pitched a Bon Clay or something. And by that time, I was definitely at 10 Dawn, and I had like the ability to play Shanks. So then I Shanks his Katakuri, and then he played Yamato, Heal Life, and he was either that or Ace. Actually, I think it was Ace. And then, so he healed a life, swung 10, I take the damage, and flip it up, it's a Sanji 2K block. And I have, like, another 2K, I have Rat Beam, like, I have all this stuff, right? But I played Shanks, so, like, I can't activate any of it. And so he plays down the Ace, and then I had another Shanks in my hand. And so I draw for turn, and it's the third Shanks. So then I Shanks the ace, swing 6, swing 12. He has to counter out of I swung 12, and then I swung 6, and then he had to counter out the 6. And then following that turn, he plays another ace, swings 10, and then I literally play Shanks again. And I'm like, oh yeah, like now I have literally 3 Shanks. And then I swung Shanks. He hit a Veggie trigger out of life on the top card ace, stunned the other Shanks, and then I swung 6. Actually, I think I just passed because I don't think it's good to cycle them. I think I just passed again. And then he swung. I had a queen blocker that also, I played it like earlier in the game, and it had just been sitting there the whole time. He swung big. I blocked out with queen. I forgot to say that queen was on the board or something like that. And then, so I was 0 life, and I have kid in hand. I have 0 cost. I think I drew that for turn. I had Rad Beam and a few 2Ks. And then I decided that it would just be best to play like I hit him. I swung 12 Shanks, 12 Shanks. His last life was a freaking Veggie trigger. I swung 10. He countered out, and then at 0. And then I played Law Blocker with 1 Dawn up for Radme with 3 Shanks staring at him. And I didn't even have Gear 5 in my hand either. And he literally like popped my Law Blocker, swung 10, and I had like Rad Beam and like Zordra in hand, and then I countered out. It was like super clutch. But like Shanks literally just destroyed the top end of an L. And so like, it's just like one of those things where like, you just kind of realize the power of like some of these cards and like what they do for you in the matchup. Like you just, like I never would have thought to really play Shanks until like I ran into this deck somewhat on the sim. And then like, I was playing something. I think I was playing the Mirror because I was just trying a version of it. And then I played Newgate, and then he Shanks my Newgate. I was like, oh boy. Like, oh boy. Like, that's like pretty crazy, right? And so moving on to the last one, I played against Reiju, and I saw the most godlike hand you could ever have. He made me go second. I saw Bond Clay. I did not have the... so I ramped to 5, swung 7, go into 7 Dawn. I played Queen, and this is like a really good line for you to know. So like, Queen Dawn minus puts you to 6, you go into 8, ramp to 9, basically the same thing, but you get a blocker. And this is like pretty important because like, again, unless they see like Ichiji right away, like Reiju doesn't really attack at you like that aggressively. Because Porsche doesn't get the value at 5. If they're doing that, like, they're not setting up. Like, they're not playing stage. They're not, you know, if they play Porsche, like, it takes the majority of their early game turns. They Dawn minus. They don't have a lot. So, like, they can't really get at your leader early. And so, I did that line, 8. Went into my 8 Dawn turn, went to 9. And then I played Newgate. And I literally top decked all 4 of my Newgates. So I went Newgate, Newgate, Newgate. And then after the 3rd Newgate in a row, my opponent was like literally just looking at me like I really just don't know how to get through this. Like, because when you have Newgate, you still have 1 Dawn up. And so I basically had Rat Beam and like 5 or 6 counter in hand on top of Rad Beam, which is just like a death sentence. And then Queen has literally just sat there the entire game until like it was time for the kill turn. And so after the 3rd Newgate, I just turned everything sideways. I had Gear 5 in hand, and then I took another turn. And then he died at the 7K swing of the turn before I take another turn to go to 10, 12, or just 16, or 6, 16. So it's honestly, I think that like if you're looking for, if you think that your locals are going to run a lot of Reiju and you're like kind of concerned about it, this deck actually has like a lot of positive things in the matchup going for it into Reiju. Like Porsche really can't touch you. The leader can't touch you. Even if they go like, if they open up Porsche 5-7, which is like the best start for Reiju possible. Like turn 1 would be stage, pitch Ichiji 7 drop. Turn 2 is, and then search 4 drop. Turn 2 is play Porsche, play 4-drop, play 7. Half of their swings literally cannot reach you off that play because you're a 6K leader. And so you gladly take the first damage, and now, like, going into your second turn, if you play Bond Clay, you get a free 7 swing at life, or you generally want to go at life. You really don't want to put the EGG in the drop, because if they don't see more EGG, like, you force them to see more EGG. So, like, their EGG 4 drops in hand don't get any value of replay and them drawing cards. And so, like, you just basically kind of ignore board. And then with the Bond Clay line, you can be a permanent 7K. Even if you take like 1 more damage and go down to 1, it's like not that serious. Because as soon as you hit Newgate, if you hit Newgate at all in that matchup, like, they are crying. Like, the Dawn math, the Dawn minusing, the setups, the plays, the chopper lockers, all this other stuff takes their Dawn away. And, like, literally, like, they're stacking a Dawn on HG, like, every single time they attempt to do damage. And, like, Zorjuro or, like, Bond Clay in your hand is literally just countering out of these swings. And then, like, it's like, oh, now it's Newgate again, 8-10. Oh, Newgate again, 8-10-10. Or, like, oh, look, like, 7 cost kid, 9K leader. And to top it off, it's, like, 8-10-9, right? Like, it's just disgusting. So, and then eventually, it doesn't even matter how many 2Ks they have, because, like, your cards are too big. Like, your leader is not swinging for 9, kid's swinging for 8, Newgate swinging for 10. If you want to get fancy and you play Shanks down and it's safe to, Shanks swings for 12. Like, you know, and then Gear 5 comes down, takes another turn, and they don't have a chance to replenish their hand. And so I think that this deck probably has a positive matchup into Reiju. Like, it's probably really bad. It's, like, probably a very bad matchup for her, just because, like, literally Porsche, Reiju, and the leader sat there and did almost nothing the entire game. So, like, yeah. And that was, like, basically it for both games. So, yeah, I was really excited to bring this deck profile to you guys. Shout outs to Peoria, helped me get my Gear 5 Dawn for my Gear 5 Red Purple Luffy deck that we play on, wait for it, my Gear 5 Spellground deck that playmat that I got also at Peoria. Shout out to my man Victor. Yeah, it's a super beautiful mat. Really great deck. Really happy I got this Dawn. This is my favorite Dawn in the game by far. Like, the Straw Hat Crew Dawn is, like, really cool, but, like, Gear 5 is Gear 5. Like, come on now. We all know what it is. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry this was a long video, but I just want to explain some of the lines and go over my matches so that you guys can kind of see how, like, the game kind of went and the games kind of went. And then, like, yeah, just know that this like, all the Reiju players told me that this felt terrible to play against. Like, they were like, I don't even think that, like, that matchup's winnable without seeing, like, Porsche, EGG back to back. And so, yeah, I hope you guys, you know, enjoy this. It's a fun deck, and I will see you guys in the next one. Look forward to my Peoria recap. And I tore the deck apart, but the Rob Lucci deck that I played, I'll kind of talk about it a little bit. I was gonna bring a profile of it, but I was like, not really. So anyway, look forward to that, and I will see you guys in the next one. This is Marcus from TCG Discussions signing off. Laters.